me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Okay, so let me quickly go ahead and create a web app first, and then later, okay, I'll walk you through how we can, deploy a sample application on top of this web app. So web apps majorly, used to host any application, and a web app is one of the PaaS service, whereas you don't need to worry about the underlying hardware. We can just host any type of, code like ASP or Java, Node.js, Python, or PHP. Okay, so let me go ahead and create a web app service now. And here I think yesterday we had a certain resource group, and I'll just name this web app name as a test 123. Let's see, do I have this particular available? Or I would say 321. Okay, so 324 is available, and I'll go with the code basis instead of containerized. Okay, as a code, okay, I'll go with the ASP.NET 4.8 version, and when you go with it, okay, the default version, okay, Windows will be supported runtime stack for the ASP.NET 4.8, and let's go with the default region as a Central PS. So here, okay, it is getting created one specific app service plan. So this app service plan will provide the underlying hardware for your web app. Let's say in terms of compute and other stuff. Okay, we'll have a look here. And the default it is giving as a F1. So let me go to the deployment model. So I think still it is in a preview mode. That is the reason yesterday we were not able to perform this particular deployment. That is fine. And for the monitoring solution, okay, so I'm going to create a new application insights. So for monitoring the web apps, that is your application, we use a monitoring solution called application insights. Okay, so people call it as a app insights also. Okay, so if you remember, for infrastructure monitoring we were using Azure Monitor, but application monitoring we are using application insights. Let me go to the tags and let me review and create it quickly. Okay, so yesterday I was looking for the Visual Studio for hosting any website, right? Let's say today let's do it with a VS Code. Okay, so to do that, I'll go with the Azure Web App Docs. Okay, so this is the document I think. Okay, yesterday I have said, and here you could see the app service document. If you go to the overview page, okay, you could see what exactly this particular app service is about and why do we use the app service. Okay, so multiple languages and multiple framework. Okay, it is managed in a production environment also, and it is useful to host your container and dockers. Okay, so we can also have a DevOps optimization, okay, for hosting your applications, and it is globally scalable and highly available. So likewise, okay, I can see many more advantages. Okay, and coming to the this is app service environment, okay, which we'll discuss later. I think these are the some of the preview features. Okay, so if I go to the quick start, okay, so how to create external ASC, these are all like something like additional features, so we'll discuss it also later. And coming back here, just a second. So we have a something like hosting in a website. Okay, let's say let me keep expand. Okay, I was an app service environment. Sorry, my bad. Okay, okay. I have to come back here. Okay, so fine. So here, okay, so under quick start, okay, here you could see what type of application, okay, we can host. Okay, yesterday we were trying to use, okay, ASP.NET. So when we try to deploy a ASP.NET website and a web app, okay, so how to do it? Okay, by using Visual Studio. Okay, I thought of to show you this, but since okay Visual Studio we were not able to have it, so we got stuck. Okay, so actually this is the general process. Okay, how to deploy a website to your web app using the specific Visual Studio. Okay, so but since we did not have a Visual Studio, let me go with the VS Code for today. Here you could see Visual Studio Code. Or else, okay, you can go with the command line interface also, that is CLI. Okay, for that, okay, you need to install this particular like .NET Core SDK. Okay, so I'll show you the demo for today. Okay, with the using Visual Studio Code, how we can deploy a sample .NET ASP.NET website for your web application. Okay, I'll go back to the web app. So my web app name is okay test2324, and when I click on browse, okay, so this is the URL, okay, which is coming for browsing, and I can directly click on browse also. And when I click on browse, okay, so this is the URL, the generic URL to access this website. So at this moment there is no code no deployed on top of it. So let me come back here. Okay, let me go down and deploy a sample ASP.NET code using a Visual Studio. And by coming down, you have to check this particular prerequisites. Okay, first you should have a Azure account. I think most of us already have. And we need to download the Visual Studio code. So just click on it this particular Visual Studio code, and it will navigate to the downloads page. And you need to download this particular Visual Studio code. Okay, it's a free one. Okay, you don't need any license for this. Okay, so if it is like 64-bit operating system, you can go with the user installer. Just click on it, it will be downloaded a package, and go to the next and install the Visual Studio code, which I am already done. Okay, I'm not going to do this. And second thing, okay, I need to install the Azure tools. Okay, click on this particular Azure tools. Okay, so when you click on install, this particular Azure tools will be installed on your Visual Studio code. Let me open my VS code here. This Visual Studio code is a lighter weight version of a Visual Studio. Okay, you can easily install on your local system. It will not consume any RAM or something. It is very lightweighted. And this is the extension that I need to install. That is Azure Tools. Okay, as a one of the prerequisite. Okay, so this you have to install. So these two you have to do it as a prerequisites if at all, if you wanted to deploy a sample website, okay, using a Visual Studio code. Okay, once you're done with it, okay, you should also install this particular SDK. Okay, .NET Core SDKs. Okay, if you wanted to validate, okay, whether they are installed on your local system or not, go to your C directory, go to your program files. Under your program files, you should be able to see a folder called .NET. Okay, by default it will not be there in your local systems. Okay, you have to install this particular SDK. Just click on this particular SDK, and from here, okay, so you can download this particular package. Okay, so you could see the C recommended downloads for the latest version of .NET. Okay, if you just click on it, okay, so here you could see the current latest version. Since we are from Windows, okay, you can go ahead and download this particular latest SDK, right? So these are the four prerequisites, okay, that you need to perform if at all, if you wanted to deploy any .NET application from your local system using the Visual Studio code. Okay, I already had this particular setup. Okay, I have installed the Visual Studio code. this particular setup. Okay, I have installed the Visual Studio Code and I have installed the Azure tools and I have SDK also on my local system. Now let me go ahead and deploy. Okay, so here I have taken a uh, let me come back here. Before that, okay, let me increase my app service plan. So to do that, okay, so let me come back here. I'll go to the app service plan and I will here, okay, I'll scale up. So here, okay, so I'm just having a basic one. Okay, I will go to the production one and I'll show you the rest of the options. Okay, let me click on apply. Okay, because when I go with the dev test app service plan pricing, okay, so some of the feature will not be available, okay, to show you certain demos. So that's the reason, okay, I just increase the app service plan. That is a pricing type for your web app to the production and S1. And these are the features, okay, which are coming up with the default. Okay, whereas I can daily take up 10 times backup and we'll talk about staging slash auto scaling, custom domain SSL, storage, and all those stuff. Let me come back here. Okay, so let me do one thing. Okay, let me follow the documentation and I'll try to host a sample.NET application. Okay, so as per the document, okay, here, okay, they're telling, okay, create a new folder named, okay, my first website. Okay, let me create this particular folder first. Let me copy it. I'll go to my desktop and here, okay, I'll create a folder called my new website. Okay, so you have to open this particular web folder and this plan. So to do that, okay, so let me come back here. I'll go to the app service plan and I will here, okay, I'll scale up. So here, okay, so I'm just having a basic one. Okay, I will go to the production one and I'll show you the rest of the options. Okay, let me click on apply. Okay, because when I go with the dev test app service plan pricing, okay, so some of the feature will not be available, okay, to show you certain demos. So that's the reason, okay, I just increase the app service plan. That is a pricing type for your web app to the production and S1. And these are the features, okay, which are coming up with the default. Okay, whereas I can daily take up 10 times backup and we'll talk about staging slash auto scaling, custom domain SSL, storage, and all those stuff. Let me come back here. Okay, so let me do one thing. Okay, let me follow the documentation and I'll try to host a sample.NET application. Okay, so as per the document, okay, here, okay, they're telling, okay, create a new folder named, okay, my first website. Okay, let me create this particular folder first. Let me copy it. I'll go to my desktop and here, okay, I'll create a folder called my new website. Okay, so you have to open this particular web folder and later, uh, okay, open a Visual Studio, okay, in the particular folder. If you wanted to open a Visual Studio from a specific folder, go to the folder, do a right click. So when you install a Visual Studio, okay, when you do a right click, okay, so it will be by default coming as a open with a code. Okay, click on it and your Visual Studio will be open in that particular specific path here, you could see. Okay, and if at all if you wanted to execute certain commands like these, what they're telling, okay, open the terminal. Okay, and you can open the terminal here itself. Okay, let's say I'll close any one of these. So I'm in this particular folder and here you could see the top terminal. Okay, I'll say new terminal and here you could see I'm opening a separate terminal here which is based out of PowerShell. Fine. So next what I need to do, I'm done with opening a terminal. Okay, so I need to execute these commands. Okay, let me do this way. I'll go with this particular 5.0 version. Let me copy this one and I'll put it here. If at all if you wanted to use this particular command, okay, you should be installing this particular .NET Framework SDKs on your local system. If it is not present, you will be not able to do it. So here, okay, I am entering this. At this moment in this folder, I do not have any code. So as soon as I enter this one, okay, so it is going to download all the dependencies and libraries and packages which is needed for hosting this particular website that is called .NET New Web App and the version 5.0. Can you see? I have all the list of sorry, all the list of code. Okay, so for hosting a website. So now, okay, to test it, okay, so what I need to do is, okay, I need to do a .NET run. Okay, let me simply copy this command and let me put it here, and let me click on enter. And this particular website, okay, basic, .NET application is going to run. Okay, it is building the solution now. Once it is done, okay, I can test it on my local system. Okay, so it is connecting to this particular root path. That means, okay, so my entire code is under this particular path. That is my first Azure web app. Okay, so now let me test this particular web app from my local system. Okay, if at all if I wanted to test, okay, so this particular solution I'm building on my local system itself, not on a web app now. Okay, so I'm just testing on my local system, and to test this particular website, okay, whether it is up and running or not, I need to enter this particular uh, URL. Okay, so I need to open a web browser, and then I need to navigate to this particular local host, and this is the port number. So let me go to the website, anyone add a different browser here, and here I'll put that particular local host. Let me click on enter. Can you see this particular website is working on my local system? So now, okay, to test it, okay, so what I need to do is, okay, if at all if I wanted to test, okay, so this particular solution I'm building on my local system itself, not on a web app now. Okay, so I'm just testing on my local system, and to test this particular website, okay, whether it is up and running or not, I need to enter this particular uh, URL. Okay, so I need to open a web browser, and then I need to navigate to this particular local host, and this is the port number. So let me go to the website, anyone add a different browser here, and here I'll put that particular local host. Let me click on enter. Can you see this particular website is working on my local system? Whatever the solution, whatever the .NET run I'm performing, which is successfully running on my local system. Okay, that is a local host. Now I need to push this particular sample code to this is how, okay, it looks like. Okay, so once I done this, okay, till I'm done. Okay, so building this particular ASP.NET solution on my local system by executing these two basic commands and setting up this particular prerequisites. Okay, I'm done. Now I need to push this particular code to the web app. To perform this, okay, so let's come back to the VS Code. Within a VS Code, you see an option called view. Under a view, you see an option called command letter, and you can just give a shortcut also, Control Shift P. Both the things will work. Once again, I'm repeating. Come back to the view, go to the command letter, click on it, and here, okay, you could see, since we have installed this particular Azure tools, okay, we are able to see all of these particular features. So now I wanted to deploy this particular entire code to my web app. So here you could see Azure App Service. So you can see the options here. I wanted to deploy the code. Let's say, let's go up, start from Azure App Service again. Somewhere you could see option called deploy. Okay, deploy to slots. No, if you wanted to create a new web app, you can create it directly from here also. Let's keep coming down. Disconnect, enable, edit. Let me see exact option here. So okay, publish your web app. Okay, so I'm enter this particular command letter, that is Control Shift P, and here, okay, I need to choose deploy to web app as a feature. Let me come back here, deploy to web app. So if I go to the view and the command letter, and I will be getting an option to deploy to web app. So let me check it for that. Here I have a deploy to slots. Else, okay, I can search for it. Okay, let's say I would say Azure App Service. No, here you could see the first option, that is deploy to web app. Just click on it. So as soon as you click on it, okay, so here it will ask you to uh, where is your source. Okay, select the folder to deploy. Okay, so this is the folder where I have my code. Okay, add the configuration. And the second thing, okay, select the subscription. Here you could see on the top. So currently my subscription is, okay, Azure Training. And here, okay, it will ask you to select the web app. So if at all there is no web app is available, it will ask you to create a new web app. So at this moment, okay, I have a web app called test324. Okay, let me choose it. Okay, so are you sure you wanted to deploy it to the test234 web app? This will override the previous deployment and it cannot be undone. Okay, let me do a deploy. Okay, so here it is asking always deploy the workspace. Yes. And here you could see the progress. Okay, this particular entire code is deploying on the web app. Okay, all this binaries, DLL files and everything is uh, putting into the top of web app. Here you could see deploying to this particular web app name, that is test324. So if you wanted to see the output window, just click on it. Okay, it will give you the result what exactly happening here. So it is copying all this particular file. Okay, these are the library files into this particular web app. And here you could see the status deployment successful. That is, it is done with pushing the code from the local VS Code to web app. Okay, and it is done. If at all if you wanted to test it, just click on browse website and it will be opened a website. Okay, so with the same URL, and I'm able to see the same code, that web application here. Can you see? And if I go back and do a refresh also, I'll be able to see that website here now. So my first Azure website, and here you could see welcome. Okay, this is a sample.net ASP.net website I have hosted on my web app. Okay, so this is how we generally host an application on top of web app, and this is my sample website is up and running. Now let me come back to this particular document, and now let's make some changes here. Okay, these are all I have already done. Okay, how can I deploy, publish the code to the web app? Somebody was messaging. Can we deploy a web app using a Terraform with a CI/CD? Terraform is for the infrastructure as a code. Yes, okay, we can create a web app using a Terraform, and we can deploy the application using a CI/CD. Okay, so since we haven't, this is not this is only related to Azure. That is the reason I'm just showing you hosting by using VS Code. But setting up, deploying the application by using CI/CD, I will be covering as part of my DevOps sessions. Okay, hope this answers your question. And coming back here, so these are all we have done. So now let me make some changes here. Let's say update the app and redeploy. Okay, let's do this now. Okay, so currently, so I have deployed application and the view will be looking like this. So let me make some changes to the configuration, and the view something looks like this. Okay, .NET Love Azure. So let me do this. Okay, so to do that, okay, I have to open this particular index.cshtml. So let me come back to the VS Code, and in here, okay, I can navigate to the root folder, and within a root, okay, let me go to the library. Not root folder. Let's say I'll go to the binaries object. Just a second, guys. Properties, under properties, www root. Just a second. That is index.html, right? If you don't know something, if you're finding difficulty, okay, so here, okay, you could say, like you could search it also. Like let's say, okay, so this is complete setup, right? Okay, maybe somewhere, okay, you will be able to find it, okay, under this particular www root itself. Let's say I'll come back here. Not maybe on the www root. Let me go to the properties again. Under a property, I'll go back here and hit in here. Let me go to the pages. Yeah, sorry, my bad. it will be present under pages, and under pages, okay, here you could see something called index.cs html. So just click on it here. Okay, so this is the sample code, okay, that you are able to see. And what I'm trying to do is now here is I need to replace this particular directory. Okay, replace the first division element with the following code. Let's let me go to the pages. Yeah, sorry, my bad. It will be present under pages, and under pages, okay, here you could see something called index.cs html. So just click on it here. Okay, so this is the sample code, okay, that you are able to see. And what I'm trying to do is now here is I need to replace this particular directory. Okay, replace the first division element with the following code. Let me copy it. And this particular first division, okay, I'm completely replacing it here with this particular new header that is called .NET Love Azure. Okay, maybe you can keep, okay, instead of .NET you can keep any other header here. And I need to save it. To save it, okay, you can just do Control S, or else, okay, if you click on a file, you can save a auto save also. It will be automatically saved. Now I have made some changes to my app. So let's see how we can redeploy it. Okay, so now open the Visual Studio sidebar and select the Azure icon. Okay, so this is the Visual Studio sidebar, and I have to select the Azure icon. So now here under app service code, okay, you could see all this stuff. Okay, let me go ahead and redeploy it again now. So here you could see this is my subscription, and this is my web app, and just do a right click, and here you will be having a option to deploy to web app. Just click on it. So whatever the changes I made, okay, it is going to deploy on the web app now. So let me do deploy, and here you could see the progress. Okay, it is building the solution completely once again, and it is publishing the changes to the web app. So when I go back to the web app again and I start doing refresh, I should be able to see this new header that is .NET Love Azure. So currently, okay, so if I go back here, it is just showing as a welcome, right? So now if I go ahead and do refresh, okay, it will show something different header. Let me come back here. It is still deploying this particular changes to your web app. If at all, if you wanted to see, you can go to this particular output window, and I think it is done. Let's wait for the status to be displayed, and you could see the deployment is succeeded. And if you wanted to test it, okay, you can just click on this browser, or else you can come back here and do a refresh. And can you see now the entire header completely changed to love .NET Love Azure. Okay, so this is how, okay, we can deploy the website, and we can make certain changes to your website also. Okay, so this is pretty much about hosting a certain sample website on the web app. And now I have a web app ready. So let me talk about certain scenarios here. Let's say this is an internal application, and you wanted to authenticate your organization employees only. Okay, if I take this particular URL and I put it anywhere, by default I'm able to see the website. Okay, so but I don't wanted to do it this way. I wanted to have a organization authentication also. To do this, okay, so we can have an authenticator feature here. Okay, so this is the authentication. Let's say this is an internal we are working for any one of the client, and that client is developing certain mobile device or maybe internal application, and that application should be accessed by a only organization employees only outside the organization also. Okay, to achieve this scenario, okay, we can configure this particular authentication. Okay, so if you come back to this particular under settings page, here you have a option called authentication. So you need to add the identity provider here. So as part of this identity provider, okay, here we have these many identity providers. So we cannot test it this the remaining three, but at this moment, okay, I can go ahead and use the Microsoft and Azure AD identities. Okay, let me choose the Microsoft Azure AD identities. When you choose a Microsoft AD identities, a separate app registration is going to happen, and the app name should be coming like as a test324. Okay, and these are the rest of the details coming as a default, and you can just click on add. This particular service principal is going to create an AD level now. And to perform this, you should have a minimum global administrator or application administrator privileges on the AD level. And if you see here, I have provided the this particular AD authentication, and this is the app ID and all other stuff. Now, if I go up, go to the overview page. Let's say, do I need to make any save here? Let's come back here. Yeah, that's fine. If I go to the overview page, and if I try to access this website again, okay, let's say, yeah, I'll copy this URL, and if I go to the incognizant window, and if I put this particular URL, okay, so instead of me, it is loading. First, it will ask me for the login. For the authentication, it will ask. Can you see? It is asking my authentication. So my ID, that is Azure Ramakrishna, is part of this particular already this particular Active Directory. So let me give that credentials here. Okay, and here, okay, it is asking the permissions requested. Okay, so let me click on accept. And can you see? Now we are able to access the website. Okay, here, okay, what I'm doing, I'm providing additional authentication to my website. Okay, if at all somebody wants to access my website, okay, they has to be part of this particular Active Directory tenant. This is how, okay, so we can enable the authentication for your web applications. Okay, so let's say we'll just quickly discuss about certain troubleshooting options quickly. Okay, you might already know what we have on a overview page. Like you could see data in, data out, and request and response time. Complete monitoring solution. You could see basic monitoring. And when you go to the activity log, okay, you can see what are the activities performed on this particular web app with respect to time span. Okay, you can just check it. And IAM, okay, you can just grant a permissions. Okay, tags, okay, you can assign any one of the tags. Okay, this is very important. Diagnose and solve problems. Okay, especially on a web app services. Okay, when you come back to this particular diagnose and solve problem, okay, here it will completely give you the availability of the web app and performance of the web app. Okay, let's say if I run this particular troubleshooter. Okay, so it is still loading. It is still capturing this particular solution. This solution is in a preview mode, but here you could see, okay, we have a three critical things. Okay, let me view the details. Auto heal is not enabled, currently not utilizing the health checks feature, distributing your web app across the multiple instances. Okay, so these are the certain best practices that you need to follow. Okay, okay, I'm stopping my recording here. Screen. Data, and it will check the health status of your web application, and it will give you the results. And if you see here, your web application is 100% is available. Things. Okay, let me view the details. Auto heal is not enabled, currently not utilizing the health checks feature, distributing your web app across the multiple instances. Okay, so these are the certain best practices that you need to follow. Okay, these are the recommendations also Microsoft will provide. And closing this, if at all if I wanted to see the availability and performance of my website, I can just run this particular troubleshooter. Okay, just run this particular troubleshooter, and it will completely scan your website, and it will fetch the complete details of your web application. Okay, it is done with the checkings. Okay, it is still checking the app insights. Okay, app insight is the monitoring solution we created while creating the website, right? Okay, connects an app insight with the app service diagnosis to allow app service diagnostics. Okay, let me click on connect. What I'm doing is, okay, so I'm connecting this solution to the application insights to collect the logs, and provide the results here. If you see here, app insight is enabled and connected with the app service diagnostics. If you see here, I can see the complete failed request of my web app, and I can see the performance of my website, and I can see the CPU utilization of my website. At this moment, okay, nobody is accessing my website. Okay, that is the reason the CPU consumption is coming as a 0%, and I can also view the average memory utilization of my website also. And you can see the request count here. Okay, so by default it is showing as a one or somewhere, I think one. Okay, because I am the only user, okay, who is accessing this particular website, and it is success ratio. And if it is getting failed something like a 300 error, 400 error, or 500 error, you will be able to see the respective uh, legend coloring. So 200 error means, okay, I'm able to access the website. Okay, here, okay, we have different error messages like a 200, 300, 400, and 500. So they will be having a different use cases, the error troubleshooting. And if you wanted to see whether the web app is down, okay, here you could see it will completely analyze your data, and it will check the health status of your web application, and it will give you the results. And if you see here, your web application is 100% is available. Okay, and similarly, if you wanted to see all these details, let's say here, okay, it is showing web app slow. It is not slow now. And if I wanted to see the CPU utilization, high CPU analysis, okay, it is drilling down the, okay, complete analysis. Okay, I don't see any CPU issues. Okay, I can see the memory analysis also. Okay, so everything is good now. Okay, so web app restarted. Okay, so I don't think so. Okay, no application stopped event is detected. Let's say if I go ahead and restart my web app. Okay, let's say I'll go back here. I can restart the web app also. Let me show you that how can do this. Okay, let me go back to the no, web app. This is my web app, and here I have an option called restart. Same as like a VM, I can restart my website, and I can stop my website also. Let's say if I click on stop, okay, so I'm stopping my website, and if I go to this particular URL, and if I do a refresh, I will be not able to access the website, and I will be getting an error message saying 400 403. That means, okay, the server is, okay, there is a problem with the server end, because my web app is not up and running. I'll go back here and start my web app again, and it is started. If I go back here and if I do refresh again, I should be able to access my website. Can you see now? This time it is asking for the login. Since I logged in with this browser, I think it will take auto login, because I log in with the same credentials and the same browser, right? So that is the reason, okay, it has taken a default login. So this is how I can start in this topic here. And if I come back and if I do refresh here, let me go back. Let me do refresh here. It will show you the events now. Okay, so when the particular web app is restarted or stopped. Okay, I'll go back to this particular availability and performance window, and here, okay, I could see web app restarted. Okay, so we just stopped it and stopped it. Okay, I think we did not restart it, but yeah, at a high level, okay, you can get all the views, logs, okay, everything you can see it here. Okay, if I go to this particular HTTP 400 errors, okay, you could see what type of errors we are getting it here. And in addition things, okay, at this moment, okay, we do not have any request. And if at all, if you wanted to see the web job details, you can go ahead and see the web job details here. Same if at all if you wanted to see the TCP connections, okay, you can go ahead and see the connections as well. So this particular availability and performance troubleshooter is very important. Okay, so when you're hosting your web applications, everything is healthy here. And if I go to the TCP connections, okay, let's see the connections here. What type of connections I have? Okay, no issues with the outbound TCP connection register. Okay, if there are any issues, okay, so here, okay, you will be able to see those, issue results, right? So this is how, okay, so maybe, okay, if application is crashed, okay, so maybe like, application crashes. Okay, so at this moment we do not have anything, but here you can go ahead and, get the logs, right? So this is pretty much about, how we can perform the troubleshooting, okay, by using this particular troubleshooter called availability and performance. And you can also have, risk assessment and all other stuff, okay, you can perform. Okay, this is a major advantage of, having this particular diagnose and solve problem window. And this is something like a security. Okay, so we can also enable a security for your web. We have a certain security feature called security center, provided by Microsoft. It's a managed service. This particular security center will we also call it as Azure Defender. Azure Defender is one of the security solution, and we can add the resources into this particular security and this particular Azure Defender, so that it will give you the certain recommendations and security alerts for your resources. Okay, so when you onboard your subscription, okay, we can enable this particular Azure Defender, that is security solution for your subscription itself. And by default, within your subscription, whatever the resources you have, for each and every resource, okay, this particular security features will be applicable. And as part of it, okay, my security center will provide you the recommendations as well as security alerts. Let me show you that particular security center here. Here you could see the option called security center. So by default, when you open a security center for the first time, okay, you will be not able to have all of these particular features enabled. Okay, you have to upgrade it. Okay, if you come down here, you will be able to see the something option called upgrade. By default, you will be having a basic security center plan. You have to upgrade it to the standard one. So when you upgrade it to the standard, okay, so it will capture all the subscription and the resource group and the resources, and it will provide the recommendations and security alerts. And at this moment, as part of, I can see my security score for my subscription also, right? So this security topic we'll discuss it later, but for now let me go back and quickly discuss about web app itself. And coming back here, deployment slots. Okay, we'll quickly discuss about this particular blue green deployment slots. Even in interviews, okay, so you will get a question like what is mean by blue deployment slots. Okay, let's read the definition here. Deployment slots are live apps with their own host names. App content and configuration elements can be swapped between two deployment slots, including the production slot. That means deployment slots are live apps with their own host names. That means here we can have a new deployment slots. Currently it is a production one, and which is already up and running. Let's say I'm adding some more feature to my web app. Okay, so let's say this is my application, and I'm adding certain additional features to my web application. Okay, and if at all if I wanted to perform certain testing whether those features are properly working or not, what I can do is I can simply create a new slot, and I can swap the code to the this particular non-prod environment, and I can just have the website to be tested. So let me do this now. Okay, add a slot here, and I'll just add this particular slot name as a non-prod. Okay, so here if you see, when I add a slot name as a non-prod, my website URL is changing to that URL name, I mean like a website and a web app name, and in between it is adding additional name called non-prod. That means it has their own live apps with their own host names. Okay, so my non-prod web slot is having a host name called in addition non-prod. Okay, so I can clone this particular website for now, and I can just click on add. What I'm performing is I'm creating a new slot now, that is non-prod slot. I can simply swap my entire code to the non-prod and prod if at all if you wanted to perform certain tests, and by using this, okay, we can reduce the downtime of application. Okay, we don't need to have a much downtime. Okay, so to perform certain tests and to swap the code from between the this particular deployment slots. Okay, it is done with a swapping, creating this particular thing. And if you see here, I created a separate deployment slot that is called nonprod. If I open this particular slot, and here you could see this is the URL, and if I try to browse this particular website, and I don't see anything at this moment here, and here you could see the URL which is coming with a nonprod. And for this, okay, we do not have any nonprod here, and here it is asking for the sign in. Let's say I'll do this later, because okay, we have enabled the authentication, right? Okay, that is the reason it is giving certain troubles. Let me go to the deployment slots now. Now what I will do is, okay, I'll completely swap my production code to my non-prod slot. To do that, okay, I can just simply swap it, and I can choose the source and targets, and I can just click on swap. Now what will happen is my entire code from the production slot to the non-production slot will be moved. Okay, and if I go back to this particular website, that is the production one, and if I do refresh, okay, it will it will not display this particular web page. Okay, let me show you that now. The swapping is still in a progress, performing the swap between the non-prod and production. This is very important. Okay, so when you talk about a web app, right? Okay, even in interviews, whatever we are discussing here, if you can able to explain them very clearly, okay, you will be well and good. Okay, hosting a website, and performing the deployment slots, and enabling the additional authentication for your web app, that is Active Directory authentication. And we'll also see how we can take a backup for this particular web app also. And now if you see, I'm done with the completing swapping. Let me close it. If I go back to this particular production URL, and if I do refresh, I don't see this particular entire code on my production one. Let me go to the non-prod one. Yeah, I'm already on a non-prod, and if I on a non-prod, if I go to the overview page, and if I try to browse this particular website with a non-prod, I will be able to see that particular website now. So I think it is giving certain authentication issue here. Let me try to open in a incognizant window. I'll put it here. Okay, this is a non-prod URL, and let me do a refresh. Sorry, but we are having trouble signing in you. Let me do one thing. Let me remove this particular authentication feature, because okay, this authentication is not applicable for the non-prod slots. So I'll remove this particular authentication for now. Okay, let me you know uh, remove this. Okay, allow token audience and all the stuff. Let me remove this. Okay, maybe I cannot delete from here. Let me go back to my original web app, because I'm a non-prod slot. This is my website web app, and here, okay, let me come back to the authentication. Okay, from here let me try to delete it. Unable to delete current identity provider. This identity provider is your current provider. You can either disable authentication by choosing the allow authentication access option, or add a new provider and delete this particular one later. Okay, authentication settings, I'll go to the settings. Required authentication, allow I can say allow unauthenticated access also, and I can click on save. Okay, so I don't, it will not ask for the authentication now. So let me go back here, and I'll try to do a refresh here. Let me go back to the my deployment slots, and here, okay, let me go to the non-prod one, and here let me try to browse this particular non-prod one, and here I will be able to see my website, because my entire code is swapped from a production to the non-prod environment. And this is my prod one. Here I do not have any thing, and can you see on a non-prod, okay, I'm able to access my website, because I have entirely swapped my code to the prod to the non-prod. I can perform a testing if I have any additional new features, and once I'm done with it, I can come back to the deployment slots again, and this time again I can swap it from a non-prod to the prod. With this, okay, we can have a very minimal downtime. Okay, so here, okay, I'm swapping it again from a non-prod to the prod, and it is still loading. And let me click on swap. This time, so my source is non-prod and my target is production. That means I'm swapping the entire code from a non-prod deployment slot to the production deployment slot. And once it is done, if I go ahead and refresh this particular URLs, this particular website I'm able to see on a prod URL, and this non-prod URL will be coming with the sample website like this. Let's see that now once it is done. Okay, so it is still performing the swap. It will take a very minimal downtime, hardly 1 or 2 minutes upon the size of your application. So that is a major advantage of having this particular deployment slots. And try to remember these definitions. They're like a live apps with their own host names. Okay, non-prod slot and prod slot has their own host name, different URLs. Yeah, it is done. Let me close it. If I go back to the prod one and if I do refresh, I'll be able to see the website here now. Can you see? I'm able to see the website here. And if I go back and do a refresh here, I'll be able to see the empty Microsoft web page here now. Because I completely move the code from a non-prod deployment slot to the prod deployment slot. So this is the advantage of having deployment slots. Whereas if you have any additional new features, okay, we can just simply swap it between the environments. Let's say non-prod and prod, likewise. And this deployment center, like Vasi, to answer your question, okay, from here also we can just pull the code from a Azure DevOps. Okay, so having your authentication and all other stuff. So some of the features here, okay, are in a preview mode. So that's the reason it is not allowing us. Here you could see the Azure repos. If your code is on Azure repos, okay, you can just provide these particular details, and you can just push the code, okay, from a Azure DevOps organization to here. Okay, so this is something like setting up the CI/CD for your web application. If there are any CI/CD is nothing but if there are any changes, okay, for your web application, by default, okay, it will be deployed on a website. You don't need to do any manual deployment. Just now, okay, so I went it and I added this particular feature and I redeployed, right? Okay, so in a CI/CD case, you don't need to do it. Okay, those changes will be automatically replicated on your web app. Okay, those are like automatically deploy, continuous integration and continuous deployment. All right, so this is something about additional features. And coming back down, okay, so you could see the configuration. When you go to the configuration, you could see all of the stuffs. And if you go to the authentication, yeah, we just see that. And whatever you see classic, it is like a old model, that is like ASN deployment model. And so this is something like application insights. So this is the monitoring solution, okay, that we are going to use, okay, to monitor our web application. Okay, let me go to the view application data here, and I was navigated to the application insights. So on application insight page, okay, if you see the application dashboard here, it will generate a new dashboard, okay, with the predefined metrics of your web application. Okay, so I'm just clicking on this particular application dashboard, and on a dashboard page here, if you remember, okay, we have created a new dashboard in the beginning. So here, okay, so by default application insight, okay, will give you the certain default metrics here, like unique sessions and user, failed request, server response time, average page load, and availability of the application, and any exceptions, and average processor, browser exceptions, and availability, and average process IOPS, and available memory. These are the default metrics, okay, which is coming. Okay, so you can just automatically refresh this particular page. Let's say from past 1 hour I wanted to see, I can just click on apply, and it will only display the list of events or things, okay, from past 1 hour, and you can just click on save on the top. Okay, so this is how we can enable the monitoring for the application level by using this particular feature monitoring solution called application insights. We also call it as a app insights. Okay, and you can check the performance, and you can check the everything, right? So let me come back to the web app now. Okay, so before web app, okay, let me go to the application insights once again. Here is application insights, and an application page also. Let me go to the application insight data. So this is the application insights. So here, okay, so we can just investigate certain features also. Let's say I wanted to see the application map. Okay, so completely I can see, like what are the components which are included. I need to make certain configuration here, and I can view a map also, how the connectivity is performing and all the stuff. And I can also have a smart detection. Like I can see certain certain logs or any, if there are any issues, okay, I can just find it. I need to enable it again. And I can also see the live metrics. Let's say a live metrics in a sense, okay, who's accessing my data. Okay, so I can see it as a live. Okay, so your app is offline or using an older SDK. So it is depends on the the kind latest SDKs. And you could see the monitoring here. Okay, incoming request, okay, per second how many requests are coming. I can, okay, what is the duration. Okay, if there are any failed requests, I can see the complete live data here. Is there any outgoing request. That means, like, somebody is downloading certain data, what is the health, server health, and what is the CPU utilization, everything. Okay, you can see live. Okay, so get started with a live metric. You have to enable it. Okay, to enable this particular one, okay, you have to perform this particular things. Okay, so this is something, okay, we can achieve it, okay, as a live metrics also. Okay, so which is very important. And coming to the transaction size, okay, if you wanted to use such any certain with a specific logs, you can do it. And you can check the availability of your web application, okay, by using this particular availability feature. And overall currently it is showing as a yellow, and it should be green. And you can also see the failures here. Okay, so currently, okay, we do not have any other failures. It will give the results of the failures here and with their respect to error messages. And I can check the performance from this particular investigation also. And my app performance is completely overall is green now. And I don't find any additional information here as a data because my website is properly up and running. Okay, so you can see the troubleshooting guide also directly from the application insight level itself. Okay, so this is one of the very important monitoring tool to monitor your applications, that is application insights. Okay, and coming back to the app, and if I go to the configuration, you might have thinking how these particular logs are captured to the application insights. Okay, while we creating this particular web app itself, okay, so a specific connection strings will be established. And if you see here, when I come back to this particular configuration page, and here I could see certain uh, application settings are configurations are a connection strings, I would say. Can you see application in settings? Okay, these are the keys, okay, which are by default added to your website. So these keys, okay, will be able to authenticate your web app and able to capture the logs, and it is able to perform there in a application insights. Okay, here you see authentic how it for authenticating certain keys. Okay, so these are the keys. Okay, application insights instrumentation key connection string. Okay, when you go to the application insights, let me do a refresh. Okay, you might get a question also. By default, how this particular application logs, okay, will be captured to the application insights, okay, by having these particular settings. But while creating a web app, by default, okay, these settings will be established. I'll go back to the application insight this time. This is my application insights. An application insight page. Okay, so here you have a connection string and instrumentation key. Okay, to capture the logs. Okay, this is my instrumentation key and this is my connection string. Okay, if you remember on a storage account level also, to connect to the storage account we have given a connection string also. Okay, certain keys, okay, we have given same here for authenticating this particular application insights from a web app. Okay, we are giving this particular keys here, we are passing these keys here, right? And similarly, if at all if you wanted to have a connectivity for your database from your web application, we can achieve it, okay, using this particular connection string. We have to create a connection string for your database. Okay, so this is something about it. And let's quickly talk about a backup for today, and we'll good with most of the topics with a web app. Okay, to schedule a backup for your web application, okay, under a setting we have a solution called backup. And these backup items will be stored on a storage account. Okay, so I can have a backup, and I can have a snapshot also. Let me go ahead and schedule a backup for now. So let me click on add a backup. And when I click on a backup, it will ask me to create select a storage account, because my application related backup items will be stored on the storage accounts. I can choose the storage account. And at this moment, I think I do not have any storage accounts to be created on this particular portal. Let me create a new storage account here, and I'll name this as a let's say a web app backup storage account. Okay, so this name is already exist. Okay, so I'll give my web app name. My web app name is test 324. Okay, and I'm remaining details I'm going with the defaults. Okay, for taking a backup for the virtual machines, okay, we are using Azure recovery service vault, and their backup items stored in a recovery service vault itself. But whereas coming to this particular, application, we're storing the backup items in a storage account. So it is still creating a storage account. Here you could see creating a storage account. We have given the name as a test324 backup storage account. Yeah, here you could see I'm done with the creating a storage account. I can just choose it, and here, okay, I need to create a container. I would say web app backup, and let me click on create. So within a storage account, if at all if you wanted to store some data, we need to have a container, right? So that's what, okay, I'm doing it here. And if you see here, I have selected my storage account, and here I need to have a schedule. Like if you remember on a VM backup, we have created certain policies, right? How frequently you wanted to take a backup and all other stuff. So here, okay, I need to go ahead and schedule my backup items. So how frequently you wanted to take a backup. So this is depends on, again, okay, based on your app service plan. Let's say I'll go back to my web app, and for your web app, if you come back here, okay, so you can see what is your app service plan. Okay, if I go up, here is my app service plan. So if I click on this particular app service plan, okay, so you'll be able to see what are the features of this particular app service plan. If I go to the scale up, so currently I'm using the production one. Let's wait, it is still loading. Okay, so production one S1 pricing tier I'm using, and for this, okay, I can take a backup of maximum of 10 times every day. Screen. Screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Okay, so let me quickly go ahead and create a web app first, and then later, okay, I'll walk you through how we can deploy a sample application on top of this web app. So web apps majorly used to host any application, and a web app is one of the PaaS service, whereas you don't need to worry about the underlying hardware. We can just host any type of code like ASP or Java, Node.js, Python, or PHP. Okay, so let me go ahead and create a web app service now. Screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen. It is also here, and it is succeed. Okay, if I go up, here is my app service plan. So if I click on this particular app service plan, okay, so you'll be able to see what are the features of this particular app service plan. If I go to the scale up, so currently I'm using the production one. Let's wait, it is still loading. Okay, so production one S1 pricing tier I'm using, and for this, okay, I can take a backup of maximum of 10 times every day. Okay, if you wanted to more backup items, you can go with additional pricing tiers, and whereas, okay, you will get a 50 times as a backup. If at all if you wanted to increase the scalings, this particular app service plan, you have to scale in, scale out, okay, using this particular features. You can just click on apply. So as part of my current pricing tier, I can take a backup of maximum 10 times. Let's say here, if I try to keep 10 times in a day, means let's say if every backup every let's say hour if I keep. So if I keep every hour, I should be like 20 within a 24 hours. Okay, I'm able to allow only 10 hours. Let's say if I keep let's say every 2 hours. Okay, if I keep every 2 hours, okay, for 24 hours, okay, it is allowing me to take a 12 times backup. But my app service plan will not allow that because okay, my app service plan will support only 10 times backup. So you have to choose it accordingly. Let's say I'll keep every 3 hours. Okay, I want to take a backup. So it will achieve me. It will create take 7 times in a day for every 3 hours, and I can choose the date and I can choose the time zone, and I can set the retention period also. Okay, so how many days okay you wanted to store this particular backup item? Let's say I'll keep 365 days. It is allowing. Let's say I'll keep something 900. It is allowing. There is no restriction, it seems. Okay, in terms of days, yeah, it is allowing all the days. Let's say I'll go with the default as a 30 days. Okay, keep at least last backup. Okay, yes, and listen. This is for the application backup. Similarly, if you have a database also, we can take a database backup also. At this moment, we do not have any databases here, and I can just click on save. And now this particular backup I have scheduled it. Okay, but it will be triggered upon the time what I have given. Okay, so if at all if you wanted to do it immediately, okay, you could say backup now, and you could see the backup status also here, and it is succeeded and it is in progress. And if you wanted to see them, okay, those backup items, you can go back to this particular storage account. Let's say I'll go back to the storage account. This is the storage account which I have created, and within here I have created a container called backup, I think, yeah, web app backup. And if I go ahead here, and I will be able to see the backup items. Can you see log files, XML files, zip files, okay, related to this particular test 324 uh, web app. And you could see the date. This is the date actually. 2021 is the year, and we are on June, that is 06, and today's date is 8, and this is the server time. Okay, let's say 0229 is the time of the server which we have hosted on that particular region. Let's say if I go to the overview page, this particular server is hosted on a central US, right? So at this moment, okay, within a central US, the time is 2:29 a.m. Okay, so this, okay, the extension will be created based on the year, month, date, and time. Okay, so this is how okay we can schedule a backup. And if I go back here, your web app, and if I come back to the backup picture again, and you can easily monitor the status here. Okay, completely in progress, and what are all taking everything. Okay, so this is how okay we can completely manage our web application. Okay, if at all if you wanted to go ahead and create a custom domains, okay, you can go out here. For this, okay, we need a domain provider. Okay, and a domain provider, okay, we need to verify all this stuff. Okay, so if at all if you wanted to add a custom domain, let's say I can add a custom domain, like instead of me giving a URL like test324.azure website.net, what I can do is I can just say abcd.com, or else like let's say 4.com, whatever the new domain I created. And when I click on validate, okay, so I need to pass certain details here for adding this particular custom domain. This will be done from the domain provider, like we have like GoDaddy and certain things, right? Okay, they will create a domain, and they will add this particular certain records. Okay, so maybe this, okay, we're not able to show you as a demo, but yes, on a high level, okay, how to do it. Okay, so you can just go through it. And additional concepts like app service plan is one of the important thing. So for your web app, so whatever the underlying hardware we have, right? Okay, so these are the host names. Okay, we need to register with the domain provider for the domain ownership. So when you go with the GoDaddy, okay, and a GoDaddy, if you register a domain called 4.com, so on that particular domain details, okay, you have to pass this particular details, okay, for the authentication, for the DNS preparations. And if at all if you wanted to increase the app service plan and decrease the app service plan, okay, you can go ahead and perform this particular scale up and scaled out, right? So this is pretty much about the complete end to end about this particular web app. And if at all, okay, you can see the health status of this particular web app directly from here. And if you have any issues, go ahead and raise a support request, that is SR with the Microsoft, right? So I think we covered most of the things related to web app, deploying an application and setting up a monitoring using application insights, and discussing about the deployment slots, and enabling the authentication and scheduling the backup. So this is pretty much okay. So about the web apps, try to practice it. Okay, I'll say the detailed documentation once again. Okay, so try to practice this without fail, deploying a sample ASP.NET to this particular web app, going through this Visual Studio, and setting up this particular prerequisites, right? So with this, okay, we're almost done with discussing about web app, and tomorrow let's start discussing about the load balancing concepts. Okay, I'm stopping my recording here.